Hi, this is Russell Stannard from teachertrainingvideos.com. We're going to look at 10 great tips for working with Google Docs. We're going to look specifically at how to get our students working together on a document. So particularly interested in group work activities, collaborative type activities, even students working in pairs, and of course not only just in the classroom, but it could be activities that they're doing at home and working collaboratively together. Let's get started. So what we're going to imagine is that we want to get 4 students collaborating together on a document. Now they could either be doing it in the classroom, or of course they could be doing it at home. The idea is that they can share their ideas in one document and then of course share that with the teacher. So obviously you need to sign into Google. All of the students don't actually need to have access to a Google account to do this. As long as one person in the group can create the document, or the teacher can create the document, then it's possible for the other people to actually access the document. So I'm going to just click here on my Google Drive, or I'm going to go to my Google Drive here. And to create a Google Doc, all we need to do is click on New and then Google Docs. And the first thing you really want to do is make sure that you give your Google Doc a title. So I'm going to click over here on the right hand side, and we're just going to call this Collab Doc. So keep it very simple. And now what I'm going to do is, sorry, because I've got the microphone in the way here and it's difficult to, is the first little tip I'm going to give you is always organize where you want your students to write. If your students come into a document and it's just an empty space, they'll start writing, and if they're collaborating together, it will become very disorganized. So one thing that I always do is click on Insert, and then I'm going to add a table. And what I'll do is, in this example, is I'm going to add 5 spaces, and I'm going to put here name, and then I'm going to write here comments. Okay, so this is where the students are going to write their names and their comments, and I normally of course make that a little bit over to the right hand side there. So that's my first tip. Always try to set out a table to organize where your students are going to add their comments. Actually, I'm not going to put the word comments here, I'm going to put the word ideas, and I'm just going to quickly at the above here, I'm just going to add a title to this table. So I've just written in a title. I'm going to make that nice and big and clear. So let's put it up to about 18. Okay, move down. Now another little thing that I sometimes do is that I will actually add in an example at the top myself. So I'm going to put my name here, and then I'm going to add my ideas about assessment for learning. And that's quite a good idea sometimes, because then if the other students have seen what you've written, they've got a fair example of what you're expecting them to produce. And if I know the names of the members of the group, if it's me that's setting up the document, then I will put in the names here so that the students know exactly where they can write. And another little tip as well that you can do is to kind of create the space for them in anticipation of where they're going to write. So again, you're kind of giving them a bit of an idea of how much you're expecting them to write, and that can be really, really helpful. So this table idea is really good. And my second tip is sometimes it's a good idea for you to add your ideas at the top, and that gives them a really clear idea of what you're expecting from them. Now, teachers always get confused about how you share one of these documents so that the students can access it and begin to write. And I'm actually going to do this live for you so that you can see it in action. What you need to do is come over here to the share button. Now, there's normally 2 ways of sharing. If you know the email addresses of your students, you can simply add in their email addresses here. Choose the level of access, which I imagine in this case is going to be Kinetic, because you want them to actually write in the document, and then click on done, and it will send an email to those members of that you've added in their email addresses. Now a lot of the times you don't have their email addresses. You're planning to share the link on Moodle or on Blackboard or on Edmodo, and the easiest thing to do then is to click here. So this is like a different way, and again remember, you need to set what you can do with the link. So in this case I'm going to click can edit the actual document, and then I'm going to click copy. So now I've copied the link, and all I need to do now is to put that into Edmodo, or put that into perhaps Moodle or wherever, so that the students can click on it and then they can access the content. So either email the link to them or share it on some kind of resource where they can access it. Now I'm actually going to show you live what would happen if I was another student and I access this document, and you'll see what or how it's going to look for me. So let's just click on done, because we've now copied that link. Okay, so it's often useful, as I said, just reminding you, click on share and click on shareable link and get this link. Remember though to set the level of access that you want your students to have. So my tip is use the shareable link. It's often a lot easier than emailing individual students. Some teachers say to me, well, we haven't got Edmodo or Moodle, we've got no way of sharing the link. And one of the problems with the link, and if I just come back to the link and just show you, we're just going to copy it again. I'm going to open up Word and I'm going to paste that link out, is that it's very long. And so it would be very difficult to get your students to be able to type that in and then access the document in the class. But there is something you can do. There are such things as what we call URL shorteners. They make the link much shorter. And one that you can use really quickly is one that's called tinyurl. Well, let's give it a quick test. I've just gone to tinyurl.com. I'm going to paste that link in, okay, and I'm going to click on make teeny, and it's going to make that a lot shorter. Okay, now we've got it here, so I'm just going to copy that. Okay, in fact you can do it here, copy to clipboard, and let's go back to the Word document now and show you how much shorter that one is. See, now that might be possible to put on the whiteboard or on the blackboard, and then the students could write it in on their computers, type it in, and then access the document. Now let's actually watch this in action now. So a good tip for you is, if you need to shorten the URL, use a URL shortener, and tinyurl is a free one that you can use. So let's see if we can access the address then. So here it is, tinyurl. I'm going to press enter, and I hopefully will come into the document, and there I am. I'm in the document now. So you can see how easy it is to actually get other people into the document. All they need is that link, and then they can get in, and of course they can begin to write. Now I'm going to talk now about some of the options in terms of once we're inside the document, things that we can do. Very quickly to remind you that you can subscribe to the channel. If you come down below any of the videos, hit the subscribe button and then hit the bell, and that way you'll be updated each time a new video is uploaded. And we are now regularly uploading videos every Friday onto teachertrainingvideos.com. So I'm logged in as Tom now, and obviously I can start writing into the document, and because it's in a box I can clearly see where I've got to write. Another thing that we can do is that we can actually add comments. So I could leave some comments regarding Russell's contribution here. And one simple way of doing that is to actually select the document, select where you want to, and then you'll notice this little comments button comes up, and I can click here and I can add my comments here. And the nice thing about adding comments in this way is that they come on the side of the screen rather than actually on the screen itself. So you could do that with anyone's contribution. You can select it, you'll get to see this little button comes up, and then you can click on it and add your comments. Now there are other ways of adding comments by just clicking up on here and kind of just adding your comments, but I actually find much better to select what you want to comment on and then add your comments. So those are two great tips in terms of the way that you can add content to a document if you have been given editing rights. Now I know I've got editing rights because I can see over here by just looking here, and it clearly says that I can edit. Now let's swap back and see what the person who produced this document can now see. Now I can really clearly see where someone has added some content, and I can see where they've written, and I can also see here that there's been a comment added as well, and I can click on, I can react to this comment and then click on resolve. That's a really nice way of working. So those are the two most effective ways if the student wants to edit. Now I want to make a little suggestion here of another way of thinking about the fact that we can comment on a document. Now, another really nice thing about working in Google Docs, if you've got your students working collaboratively together and they produce a document, what you want to make sure is, of course, that that document is used. You don't want to just produce a document and then not do anything with it. And one thing that I do with my students, and this example here, the students were working in groups. So group 1 wrote here, group 2 wrote here, group 3 wrote here, group 4 wrote below. A group 5, and I think that was it. There were 5 groups. Now what I did was, after they produced their content, I then asked them to look at someone else's. So I put group 1 had to read group 2, group 2 had to read group 3, etc. And then they had to comment on what the other group has written. So group 1 wrote this part here, okay, and so on. So group 2 would have written this part here. So they all were writing to the group below, and of course group 5 wrote about group 1. So each group had to read one other group's work and then comment on it. But what I asked them to do was comment in another color. I asked them to first of all draw a line and then comment, so that then group 1 could come back afterwards and look at the comments that group 2 had made, and then they can either make changes, etc. So it's a really good idea when you produce a document. Let's say you've got 4 groups, you then ask the groups to look at each other's contributions and comment on them, but you want to make it clear that those comments are from a different group. So ask them to write in another color, or ask them to draw a line and then write underneath the line, so that the group 1, for example, knows that this isn't what they wrote, but rather it was a contribution from another group. It's a great way of working, and something that I've done many times. And the reason I like doing that is because that way I'm forcing the groups to read each other's work and look at what each other has written. And of course that makes a contribution to their learning and picking up ideas from other groups. So that's another great tip when you're working with Google Docs. Now, another really good tip to keep in mind is, once you've created the document, so let's imagine this example here, I've created the document, the students have added their content in, and now I don't want them to be able to make any changes. All you need to do is go back to the share button and change, and you can see I already did it here, change back the level. So if I click on the shareable link, actually, change back the level to, or the access level, back to can view. When you do that, that will actually stop anyone who has that link from accessing the document and adding more changes. Because I think there comes a point when you say, right, that's finished now, that's complete. So it's a really good idea for you to change the access level, and that will automatically change the access level to any of the students who have been accessing the document. They won't be able to edit anymore, or they won't be able to comment. They will only be able to view the document. This is a really good way of kind of finishing an activity off. One thing I often do when I'm working with Google Docs is that I only allow one person in each group to be accessing their computer. So if the students are having a discussion in, say, a group of 5, only one person needs to write the ideas from that group onto the screen. And that's exactly what you saw in the last example, where you saw group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. I was just allowing one person to actually access the computer and write in. So that's one of the things, particularly if you're going to use it in the class and you don't want all your students using computers. I will often have 4 or 5 students together, but just one student using a computer and accessing the content. And I will often project the Google Doc on the screen so that people can see as the information goes onto the screen. And very simple ideas that can be used for this. For example, you could simply just, as you know, you can add a picture in. You can just click here and choose from your computer or from your drive. If I imagine I wanted to add this picture in here, I'm just going to click on it and insert that picture. And what I can do after I've added in the picture then is that I could leave again a nice box here and say to the student, so for example, you've got a picture at the top of the screen, you've then created a table, so the students, group 1 would write their words here, group 2 would write their words here, group 3 would write their words there, and that way very quick you get a nice organized brainstorm, lots of new vocabulary, and best not to make a spelling mistake here, but I put in another O there, but you get the idea of how You can make use of lots of different media and bring it in, and then obviously encourage the students to access the document, look at the picture, and then add in their thoughts. And the great idea about that is then that you're going to have lots of vocabulary. The key thing is, once the students have produced that content, what are you going to do with it? Make sure that you actually use the content that the students produce. I really hope you liked that video. Please like it on YouTube if you find it on YouTube. Please comment on it if you can. Please follow my channel, subscribe to my channel. If you've got any other topics that you want videos on, then please just leave that in the comments, and I always go online every couple of days to look at my comments, and if I can make the videos, I will. Please come to my website, teachertrainingvideos.com. Lots more videos on teachertrainingvideos.com. You've got different technologies here at the top of the screen that I focus on, and then there's a section here that's kind of topic based that you can also access lots of free videos there as well. If you'd like to follow my work, then please sign up to my newsletter. That way you'll be kept up with all the new videos, but also any webinars, any short courses, and occasionally I even get special deals on software. And as I've mentioned before, the other thing to do is to follow me on YouTube. Hi, finally, I've put some links below here to other videos that are on YouTube that are connected to the topic that we've just looked at, and I really hope you find them useful. And thank you very much.